Welcome to episode 24 of Sullivan Street. I am Eric Vogelsang. We're going to get all into the 2024 Good Timing tour by Counting Crows. But first, let's say hi to the two co-hosts of today who have seen them this tour, and that's why they're here. First, we'll say hi to Chris. Chris, good afternoon.
Hey, well, I think you'd have me here anyway as a co-host,
Maybe,
right?
maybe.
I've got one up on you right now, but you'd have me anyway.
That's true. I know you've been excited because there was part of me that said, "Oh, let's wait till they finish the entire tour." You're like, "No, I have great observations. The fans want to know. The tour's not over yet. Let's do it."
So much shit to say about the Central Park show. We'll get into it. I have a couple of soliloquies. So,
and semi-regular guest Jeff Harkness, the writer of and author of the Rain King book. Jeff, welcome back. Who also saw them last week? It was
1 week ago.
Yeah, 1 week ago today. So we can't wait to hear
1 week
about
ago,
that.
yeah.
So basically, we're going to have the two of them recap their experiences and, of course, just their overall observations of the tour. Chris saw them, the New York Central Park show, July 11th. Jeff saw them in Iowa. Jeff has been cornering the Midwest market, which I love because I've been seeing the West Coast shows, Chris on the East Coast. And even though Jeff does not live in the middle, he's like, I'm traveling to the Midwest for the Sullivan Street podcast, which I love. And
correspondent. I'm a correspondent.
The Midwest correspondent. So
somewhere in Middle America.
Somewhere in Middle America.
You cannot deduct those expenses though, as your tax advisor, Jeff. I just want you to know. I don't think you can do that.
So advised. Thank you.
Officially, at least if my math is correct, they had 39 shows as part of this tour broadly, which include mostly, of course, opening for Santana, which was interesting in itself, and we've discussed that a little bit. That was, I think, 27 of the 39 shows, and 7 they are headlining, and the other 3 shows as part of festivals. Currently, they're in their week off, and the rest, except for 2 at the end, one that I'm going to see in a couple weeks in Orange County, and then they're at a festival. And the last thing I'm going to say before passing it off to Chris and Jeff is that the stats overall appear maybe not as different as I thought, but when they're opening for Santana, playing about 13 songs, and when they're headlining about 19 songs. So,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We're about 2/3, and what means we're about 2/3 of the way through the tour. So we're a pretty good chunk of the way there. Couple of interesting things so far. First of all, this has been, and it's kind of hard if you're just kind of like listening to the shows necessarily, but you pick up little details. There's been a lot of like weird turmoil in the band, not in any sort of negative way, but they opened the tour without Emmy, who missed the first week of shows for undisclosed reasons. They had to cancel a show the first week, it seems, because both Dan and Charlie got sick. So they then played a show. This was the show with Dan Eisenberg where they had brought him in just in case because they were worried Charlie wasn't going to be able to play and they didn't want to cancel any more shows. They then played some shows. They then played those shows with Dan and Charlie, but then with Emmy was back, but no Dan. Other Dan Vickery. No Dan Vickery, but with Dan Eisenberg.
Should we also give a quick teaser because our next episode is going to be an interview with Dan?
We will. So the next episode that is recorded, you will.
Oh, accidentally.
Yes, we do have our next episode is with Dan Eisenberg, organ and keyboard player extraordinaire, about doing that show with the Crows and also his very, very long history with the band. Spoiler, we learned a few things about how some of the relationships in the band even like came together through Dan going back 40 years now. So it's a really fun episode. I think I'm very excited for everyone to hear it. So we had Dan flew off. Then there was another 1 or 2 shows with Emmy, but no Dan Vickery. Which is part of the interesting things. Obviously, you hear little differences in sort of the sound and things like that. But even just Adam saying to hey, Emmy, why not, in Big Yellow Taxi? You'll notice those little things. Because Adam's still like, I'm going to call someone out in Big Yellow Taxi, but Vickery's not here. I can't do it, so I got to call. And then recently, apparently, Charlie hurt his finger. So he was playing, he's calling him Charlie Nine Fingers Gillingham. So it's been a weird summer for the band, it seems. They also had incredible travel difficulties just getting to the first show. so they had apparently no, according to Adam, at least during the listening to the first show bootleg, they had no like rehearsal with all the setup. So it's been kind of a crazy summer, which is kind of an interesting thing, just generally that
And
they're going
did you
through there.
also mention, was it one of the more recent shows that got cut short for the rain?
Oh,
Did you
Lightning.
get that?
Yeah, Lightning.
Yeah, the
Actually,
lightning. Yeah.
the last show they played as we speak was at the Basilica Block Party in Minneapolis, and that was cut after Rain King, ironically enough, because of rain. So,
Oh, that's great. I don't know
and
why I didn't
Lightning.
catch that, but yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Um, so it's been kind of a weird. They've been out there. It's been an interesting summer. Notably, right, they're playing. Most of the shows have been openers for Santana, where they're playing a set that's about 70 minutes. Um, in terms of the number of songs, their total for this summer, they are a bit lower than they've been over the last few summers. I would imagine some of that is playing the those shows. You know, they just need less songs in the rotation. But let me pull it up. The number of songs played this summer, they're only at about 30. It's always a little hard on setlist.fm because some things get doubled up because of the alts and things like that. But right about 30. That most summers over the last 10 years, they've been in the range of about 50. There were a couple of summers, 2012, 2013, where they were up a bit higher. You have to go back for them to be even in this range. 2006, which was a year they toured with Goo Goo Dolls and were doing only kind of like 80-minute sets, and 2004, which is a year where they were doing some headlining shows, but they played a lot of festivals. That was also kind of a weird tour. So they are playing fewer songs, but interestingly, we are seeing some more variation and some alts and things in the songs they've been playing, much more so than the last couple of summers that Jeff and I will get into when we talk about the shows that we saw. But we definitely some more variety on that front, which is interesting to see.
Chris, can you remind
Yeah.
me if the shows have been on Nugs?
They are all on Nugs. Most of them, there's like 4 shows missing. Red Rocks, the 2 Red Rock shows are missing, and PNC and Jones Beach are missing. Otherwise, you can listen to the entire tour. And also, there might have been a festival at the beginning, pre-tour, that's also missing. But starting with the Oneness tour, the beginning of that tour, you can listen to pretty much everything
So
on Nugs.
The Basilica Block Party, did you actually hear that? Is like the last words like, "Why don't you come in out from the rain?" And then they really had to come in out from the rain.
Yes. No, literally, they were like, hey, we're sorry, we gotta go. And they're like, yes, please leave now. There is lightning coming in the area. Please be safe. And like the tape ends with the announce, instead of California Dreamin' coming out, it's a man over the loudspeakers going, please be safe and drive home.
All right, that's pretty funny, but
It
that
is.
still is Counting Crow's history about them ending with Rain King and the lightning. So
Yeah, they opened. There was one show that was badly affected by rain in Vermont, when one of the headlining shows, and they opened with Rain King as they ought, because they had a crap ton of
oh
rain
right,
apparently and had to do that. But it's been, I don't know. It's listening to the shows. I will say this, as a listener and someone who's not touring around with them, the one upside to, I think, like the 70-minute shows is that they're very digestible. I can throw one on. It's like by the end of my commute, most of it's over. I might listen to the other couple songs of my workday. It's very easy. Obviously, when I attend a show, I'd prefer for them to be playing longer. There have been a lot of reports from fans saying they want to get up and dance during the Santana show, and people are yelling at them. Which I'm a big believer that, like, you got to follow the crowd, but also if it's the opener and you are there to, let someone dance during the opener, right? Like, you know,
I had no problem with people getting pumped up last year to Dashboard Confessional. Like you can, that they
yeah,
went, yeah. So
have fun. Yeah, you're here to see Dashboard sing, dance. If I'm bothered by it, I'm capable of standing up and seeing over you. Go have some fun. And I don't know. I mean, you were at a standing show, but I was also. We were at headlining shows where they were standing room only, right? So we didn't have that issue this summer.
Yeah, right. Now, I think, to me, one of the things that's great about this summer is the pairing with Santana. I think that the Can Crows have sometimes have paired with bands that I think are maybe not of their caliber. And I
Mhm.
won't mention which ones I think those are, but everybody would probably could pick one or two. And to me, the pairing of them with Santana is just really that's an artist of their caliber. I think
Mhm.
Santana's a legend. He played at Woodstock, and he's got a hardcore audience that will go to see him at these big venues. And many of those fans have probably never seen Counting Crows before. And
Mhm.
I think that their set list this summer has been designed, to appeal to those fans, to show them what Counting Crows can do, and also to sort of showcase Adam as a songwriter and as a performer. And I think they're being exposed to a whole new fan base that's never seen them before, and probably is. I mean, I've seen some of the comments online, just people who are like, "Wow, that was incredible! I've never seen Counting Crows before, and now I'm a huge fan." So
Yeah.
I really think that it's been a nice pairing. I also appreciated how they opened with a different song every. At the beginning of the tour, it was like, I don't know, they went 5, 6, 7 shows opening with a different song each night, and I was always just curious to like, oh, what are they going to come up with tonight before they hit a repeat. So that was fun. I felt like even though the songs haven't been varied, I think that they've been playing things like "Friend of the Devil."
Mhm.
Songs like that really appeal. "Big Yellow Taxi," those songs that would really appeal to the Santana fans too. Those songs are beloved by Santana's fan base, so I think
Yeah.
those choices are very intentional. And doing it in the acoustic, it's like I said, I really think that it's been a good and inspired pairing. What I would have loved to have seen, I know that the percussionist from Santana's been out to play with them for Hanging Around, but I would just love to see a real collaboration there between
Yeah.
these great Bay Area artists.
Those are
or
really
right, if
good.
there was,
Those
yeah.
couple of I think it's only a couple versions so far, at least that are on Nugs. But it's the versions of Hanging Around with Santana's percussionist are quite good. He is he is excellent, and it really adds an interesting element to that song. Which again, that song is one of those songs that can get kind of samey, and like you hear it and you're okay, I've heard Hanging Around, but he's really turning it up. I actually, one thing I like to your point, they have varied the set list a little bit. While yeah, you see, look, are they playing around here every night? Yes, but like they've taken the opportunity to cut out some of the stuff at the end at times and go like, hey, we're not going to do Holiday in Spain tonight, or we're going to do and kind of structure things a little bit in play around with it from night to night. It's not huge variety obviously in that regard, but I've liked that because again, I don't like when you kind of get into okay, I know that if we're getting to the one and they're going to play Long December and and that actually has been less of the case with the Santana shows, and I think even with their headlining shows, where they're playing that end stretch pretty much the same way. Um,
Yeah, Jeff, you make some good points. I don't want to. This seems like a discussion we've already had. It might have been
yeah.
off the podcast. I forget about them opening for Santana, but I agree with you, and I think hopefully some of the hardcore fans realize is that they were flirting with the idea of not touring at all this
Mm-hmm.
year. Right, that he just kind of wanted to break. So and I think they're like, okay, this way there's a lot of advantages. One, like you said, it exposes them. Two, if you haven't realized it by now, Adam likes changing up the tour, and I don't mean the songs. I mean, like, sometimes they like to do that, right, where they were changing people in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they like playing smaller venues, larger venues, right, want to play with their friends when they want to tour in Europe. And I think they hadn't been the opening band, and I don't know the last time, especially for a tour.
Probably since
um,
the Matchbox 20 tour in 2017 was probably the last time they were kind of the co-headliner, but really an
Co-headline.
opener. You
Yeah,
know,
where they were basically the official opener. I don't know when the last one was. So
yeah.
yeah. So I think anyway. So I think you made some good points there,
I
Jeff.
think I do think when you break it down, a lot of what it comes back to is that Santana as the headliner drives a ticket price that I think can be difficult for some people, right? They're like, I want to be front row for Counting Crows. I don't I may enjoy Santana, but I'm paying 50% more for a ticket for a shorter Counting Crows show. And so I think a lot of it comes back to that. And sometimes a lot of people get, I don't know, there's like an anger I think that comes out that's sort of separate from that about they're not that great. And it's like, no, they're a great band. I know they don't have to be your taste. I think though it's the idea of feeling the need to pay that price where you're like, I would have much rather paid a $90 ticket to see Just Counting Crows as opposed to paying $300 to see them play less time with Santana. I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
Yeah, no,
Um,
yeah, and I think I might have said this before, but in a couple instances, certainly the ones I know, not every show, but the one that is in Los Angeles, which I'm not going to, they're playing in the Kia Forum, I think, and so some of these big arenas that they would
Right.
not be playing if it was just girls. And by the way, just to tell the audience, we definitely are hypocrites as we're showing about the opening of them as opening band, and there's only 7 times they're headlining, and those are 3 of the shows that we saw, or when they're
right.
crows are
We all got
headlining.
very lucky with that. I think that's
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah, it just worked out that way.
it worked
So.
out. Because I'm with. I definitely felt that of like, okay, if I can see them headlining, to go pay that much more to go see them with Santana for a shorter set did feel to me like I would have done it if they hadn't been a show near me. I think I would have had a long thought about how much I was going to spend on tickets and where I was going to get them and what I was going to do there. And then they announced the Central Park show and it solved all my problems. So, I live a blessed life. What can I say? But yeah, I think it just kind of. I'm with you. Again, we all love the band and we all want to see more of them, right? So that I think that's where a lot of it comes from. Adam has been very effusive in the sets, talking about how he respects Santana, how he like camped out on the streets of Berkeley to try to get close to see them back in the day, and how just abusive. So that's part of it too. I do think is like they're having fun doing this and they're getting paid to have fun. So I can't imagine they're upset about it.
Yeah.
Jeff, did you? I know you're both going to talk about your experiences more. I just hit me that I wanted to hear a little bit about the one thing that separates your story from Chris is that you paid the premium to see the sound check.
Yeah.
How much did that run? That's public knowledge, unless you bought it off the in the streets or something like that. Do you remember?
It was maybe 340 with all the fees and everything.
And that's also a ticket to the show as well.
A GA ticket, yeah.
Yep. And so, Jeff, just talk a little bit about watching them at the sound check. And of course, if people don't remember, which maybe 1 or 2 people do, when we originally had you on the podcast to plug your book, you talked about how you actually saw sound check last year, and during that time, you got to hand copies of your book to the band, and you had even a brief interaction with Adam, which was kind of cool. So anyway, I don't know how it compares to that, but
right. Well, it's hard to compare to that. I actually did last year. I saw 2 sound checks. So I went to the sound check in Vegas too, which was really fun. And I talked to Adam at that sound check a little bit, asked him a couple of questions and some points of clarification. These nerdy Counting Crows questions.
Was that before? That was after. That was the second sound check.
That was the second time.
Did you think he remembered you? Because how much of a difference in time was it between the 2 shows? And did he actually remember you? Because you weren't just some guy.
Months.
Oh, okay. But did he remember your face? You think because you actually talked to him about your book? It's not just you were some random fan.
I feel like I feel like Adam probably meets a lot of people coming in and out, shaking his hand and taking pictures and asking him for autographs and all that kind of stuff. And I was just another person who had a few minute little interaction with him. So no, I don't think he would remember me at all. But he's these have been very fun and interesting encounters. It's always really interesting to see a band that do a sound check. So at this one, let's see, it was we got in. They always do, every time I've seen them do these sound checks, they always do start again. And the reason that they do that is that everybody sings on that song so they can test all the mics. So this is why for those who go to the sound checks, you probably always hear that as the first song, because they're trying to check everybody's levels on everybody's mic, make sure that everybody who sings, they can check those out. So
how many people were at your sound check? I've always found that interesting too.
This one probably 20, maybe something like that. Yeah, something like that. The biggest one was Vegas, and the smallest one by far was last year in Omaha. There might have been 7 of us there. It's very small, which was cool. But they've always been good. So I want to say some little anecdotes. somebody called for Michelangelo, and one of the reasons that I guess they do that is, again, it enables them to test certain instruments. This is what they're trying to do. So somebody calls for that. Jim, the drummer, says, "Can we do something else?" or something along those lines. I think he says, like, "Got anything new or got anything different or something?" So he kind of asked for something new, and then somebody says, "How about High Life?" And I'm like, going, "Yes, yes, yes, High Life." So indeed, they do. They sound check High Life, which, of course, does it get better than that? No, and actually a great version. Really nice version. I should mention also that Adam did come out and talk to us. Asked, hey, how's it going? He mentioned that he was excited to be in Des Moines because his nephew goes to college at Drake University. I think it's Drake.
Yeah, Drake.
Is it Drake?
He said
or
Drake.
one of the universities there. And so he was excited that his nephew was going to come to the show and be there that night. So he seemed like he was in a good mood. High Life, I posted the video online. You can check it out. I thought his voice sounded particularly good. He was in really good voice. So that was fun. And then they did God of Ocean Tides also. Soundcheck did that, which again, incredible. Love it. One of my favorites. And I don't know if I've seen them do that before. So
and interestingly, they have not played that on stage all summer. They've done it I think a couple times in Soundcheck, people had said, but they have not played that in a show the entire summer.
It was, so it was on the set list. Both of those songs were on the set list, the Des Moines set list. Neither of them ended up getting played, which is crazy. So I was excited to have gotten to see those at the Soundcheck because they were both really, really good versions, and they didn't end up playing them that night. So that was very fun. And then they did like a I want to say just we're testing Holiday in Spain. So they did let's start it from the second verse or the third verse or something. And Jim said something like, and then they were just like, yeah, that's fine, we got it. They didn't do a full version of it. It was like a partial, kind of like just to check some different things. And then they were like, yeah, that's fine. So then Jim says, well, just like our shows, we're ending our sound check with Holiday in Spain. And so thank you very much. And, he says his little we know that you have a choice when it comes to sound checks, and we always appreciate you coming and spending time with the Counting Crows, So he's always very funny. And then as Emmy's walking out, he says to us, "Hey, High Life, not bad," or something like that. He's like, "High Life, all right." High Life, all right. So that was a nice moment.
That's pretty funny because the people that would pay for the sound check, I mean, unless you're just rich and bored, would actually want to hear some of those quote unquote deeper cuts. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Amy made a good point there. When you said that, like somebody yelled out Michelangelo, did you mean somebody in the band or somebody in the fans or somebody working like the tour group or whatever?
Yeah, it was like somebody probably in the band.
Okay.
Was saying Michelangelo, and I'm right. And so it was Jim who said, "Yeah, can we do something different or something new?"
Well, Jim's got to play a book in that song. Maybe he just didn't feel like getting the book out.
Well, and I was going to say maybe I might have the order wrong too. I'd have to look to make sure that I have the order right. But I know that for sure it was Michelangelo and Jim who was like, "Oh, let's try something else." And I think that's where they ended up doing High Life. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. It's funny in all your sound checks. I don't know if you've done more than the 3 that you just mentioned, but you said there was interaction with the audience, because I don't think that's always the case. I know that when I saw them in Madison, now that was a little different though, because we did get to have a photo with them and I got to say 2 sentences. So I guess you'd call that an interaction, cool. But they did not interact with the sound check audience at all during the sound check. In fact, I think Adam had his back, but everybody was very nice during the photo thing. Did you actually say anything to them this time, or did you say, "Hey, it's Jeff from the Ring King book again, remember me?" or did you ask another question?
No. Honestly, I feel like Adam's working. He's busy. They're up here trying to do stuff. This is not a time for me to step in and hey, and
I was just wondering.
Like that. If it had been possible, certainly, but. No, I don't want to be intrusive, especially when they're there trying to get their stuff done.
Yeah.
No, they're like at the at the first one, I had quite a lot of interaction with him. You can go back and listen to the podcast where I tell the story. At the second one, also, though, there was a lot of interaction. I believe he even said, yeah, he did at the second one, kind of like the first one. He said, does anybody have any questions? And so people started asking questions, and I asked questions at that second one, too. But at this one, he didn't really open it up like that. And I don't know. It didn't
Okay,
seem,
yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt. I like, let the band work.
Yeah, no,
and
I
do
was
their
just
thing.
wondering. And in a way that kind of makes sense because the photo thing, even though everybody only says one or two sentences to the band, you get a quick photo and that's it. Overall, if 20 people are there, that photo thing probably takes longer than working the crowd for 5 minutes or whatever. So,
Yeah.
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 Okay. Anyway, I don't want to stop. So either of you, Chris, or do you want to lead the way or
Well,
for the
yeah. What's up?
next?
I guess I'm curious, Jeff. What's the venue? It was the Vibrant Music Hall. That's a great name.
Yes.
Was it
It's
vibrant?
vibrant.
How was it?
So it's a new place, and it was okay. It's just basically a giant sort of basketball-sized venue that with no seats and bars and on the outside of it, and then upstairs in the balcony there are some seats, maybe a few rows of seats, like balcony
Mm,
style seats in the back and on the sides as well. And probably, I mean, there might have been seating for a couple hundred up in the balconies, but yeah, that otherwise just not pretty nondescript. I mean, it was fine. One thing was that I was, for this show, because it was general admission, um, I got pretty close. I probably got fourth row,
mm,
um, and right over on next to where Emmy plays and Dave play together. So probably close to those guys, about four rows back, and got to see the show really close. And I've seen them. Like front row center,
mm,
and I've seen them from all the way in the back. The shows that I saw last year, one of them, I was in that crow's nest thing on the side of the stage, which
mm.
was close, but you're also seeing them kind of from a weird angle. So it wasn't necessarily the greatest vantage point, although an interesting one. In Vegas, I was pretty far back, but in this one, I was very close, and I kind of forgot. It's been a while since I've seen this band that close. And it's really, I can see why some people never want to see them any other way, because it's really worth experiencing them up close to see what a performer Adam is. You don't get the nuance from 50 rows back. You just really don't, as
Yeah.
good as the shows all are. So that was fun to see them that proximity.
Yeah, I saw them at Central Park, which is one of my favorite venues. The
Yeah.
Central Park Summer Stage is basically like it's concert venue surrounded by trees in like the middle of the park, so it's very beautiful. Um, it is kind of an odd venue a little bit. They've built a lot of seating in the back and around the sides. They've built all these various like balcony type areas. Um, and then it's kind of a wide venue, so you kind of have to be a little bit careful. I got there, I wanted to go to soundcheck, but I had some family stuff that was very, very important I need to take care of during the day. Could not guarantee that I would be there. And in fact, I got there during the middle of the opening band. But I was able, because it's kind of a big general admission thing, I just kind of went to the soundboard. And then after the opening band, I just kind of walked forward as far as I could. I got to probably like 10, 15 rows back, which was kind of interesting. I've obviously, like you, I've seen them closer. But this was good because I was able to get myself kind of like dead center to Adam, which I think is also a really good way to take in the band and really kind of like feel what he's doing, right? Like, because he's always kind of projecting out and he's moving around a bit, obviously, but you kind of want to be in his like line of vision a little bit, because then I feel
Yeah.
like the it kind of takes everything, and I'll talk more about that in a sec because I had a moment during round here. But it was like a very that worked out very nicely, especially given that I couldn't get there until I really wanted to get there early, and I was looking, I'm like, I'm going to have to accept that I'm going to get there when I get there tonight. It's one of those days where, regardless, sometimes life does get in the way of being in the front row at the Counting Crow show. But I got to the Counting Crow show, so that's it's all that really matters. So I think what we're going to do maybe is I've got both set lists up, and I think we can kind of talk about them kind of side by side a little bit, because we're going to hit some sections where things are the same, but I'll start with mine. They opened with Sullivan Street, which no one can disprove is not a nod to us. You'll never disprove that.
Yeah, and
We'll probably never prove it either, but
because I think both of us last year, Sullivan Street opened for one of the shows that we saw. So yeah,
I'm just saying,
Just saying.
ears. Um, they did an alt in that, which is interesting. That they've done one or two other times this summer. It's basically the Runaway Girl alt, but this is the first time they've done it where Adam's saying, "Does she run around?" And it was really interesting because the rest of the band wasn't joining in. By the time, if you go back to 2004, 05, 06, 07, when they were doing that alt, it was really like a whole band sing along. But this was just Adam, and it did feel like he was kind of feeling towards it. He kind of turned towards Imi, and Imi was kind of playing along, trying to follow him and figure out what the kind of the way to take it. But I thought it was a good alt. It was nice to see an alt in Sullivan Street. Nice to hear a new one. And I think it worked. It was very kind of emotional. It kind of brought in that energy that I like in Sullivan Street. I always say my thing with the Runaway Girl alt in the past was sometimes they would have so much fun singing it that they then needed to come back emotionally into the like emotional devastation of the end of Sullivan Street, and it kind of was kind of an awkward transition. But I really liked that. And then they went to St. Robinson, which I always enjoy and is always, I know, one of your favorites, Eric. Jeff, for you, they opened. This is kind of an interesting 1-2 punch. Anna Begins and Mrs. Potters.
Oh yeah, that was great. Well, I feel like Anna Begins is that Anna Begins. I've said this before. My very favorite Counting Crows song. So I can't be happier than when they open with that. I thought they did a really great version of it, and the audience loves it too. So they've got the audience hooked. It's always interesting when a band starts with a slower song than a faster one, instead of punching you in the face, with the rocker from the beginning, they start with kind of the slow burn. But I think then right into Mrs. Potter's Lullaby. And I think also Mr. Jones it was like a trilogy. Those first opening three were kind of put together. I feel like Mr. Jones was paired as the, kind of third act in the opener. And that whole sequence just worked really, really well. I thought, always love to see those songs. And also I think beloved by the audience, you have two of their most popular songs from their first album, but also like the ultimate fan favorite, perhaps, which every single person there, knows and is singing along with. I thought something that was really cool with in the Des Moines show was how many younger people were in the audience. It was just notable to me that, sometimes you go to shows and you feel like, okay, sometimes you go to shows, you feel like you're the youngest person there. Sometimes you feel like you're like the old guy there. Counting Crows fans, you sort of feel like, yeah, these are my people. Everybody's like the Gen Xers. But at this show, I mean, I noticed a lot of definitely 20-somethings, younger people who were, right there, mesmerized, singing along with every word. And I thought, these are the fans who grew up, with the 2000s Counting Crows as their Counting Crows, where they were listening to Accidentally in Love and Colorblind. And these were the songs that they grew up with. And you could just see that it was cool to see this new generation of fans, lining up for their stuff.
Yeah, and not to jump ahead, but I was also in a kind of a mixed age crowd, and when they jumped into the One by Taylor Swift, there were some 25-year-old women who were very, very excited, and as they should be, right? It makes sense to me, but like it was notable the pop that a Taylor Swift song got was, because the crowd has a mix of ages, and even it's great.
Chris, can you talk a little bit about the venue and the crowd? I don't know what the crowd's. It's weird. I lived in New York for years, and I went to Central Park all the time. I don't think I ever saw a concert there.
Yeah, it's kind of. I would say the crowd at a Central Park show is a little fancier than average, and I would say because obviously summer stage, you're getting that big blast of emails and a lot of people. I would say you're dealing with a crowd. I mean, the venue holds probably about 4,000-ish people, and it was very close to sold out. It was not quite sold out, but it was very, very full. And I would say the crowd felt a little more casual than average for a show of 4,000 for the Crows in this time period. Just because I don't know. I think Central Park tends to attract. There's a group of people who are like, yeah, I'm going to go hang out at Central Park. It's a great. I love I like the band, but I just want to go see a show there. I feel like it's also a venue. It's easy to talk your friends into joining you at. I've done it.
Yeah.
I've been like, hey, you want to come and see a show in Central Park? Like, yeah, let's go. Let's go head to the park and go watch the show. So, yeah, I thought it was not a bad crowd. I always think there's an interesting thing that happens where, especially if you've got a slightly older crowd or maybe just slightly casual, when Adam is singing, like especially like a chorus in a different way, where it's like you can hear the echo of the original melody. Like Mr. Jones is a good example where he's singing that and you're hearing the original melody sung back at him while he's singing in his own way. Everyone's trying to sing along, but they're like 5 versions back that from Adam's iterations of how he sings Mr. Jones, for example. So which I always think is kind of an interesting thing to hear. I will also say Mrs. Potter's, Jeff, I've really been feeling Mrs. Potter's this summer, and I feel like it's in part because we did This Desert Life podcast where we all just gushed about that song for 15 minutes straight, and it was like, oh yeah, this song is incredible, and like it had reminded me of exactly how great that song is.
It's funny, I had the exact same thing, and for the first time in, I don't know, a decade, like 2 nights ago, I was looking up all these Mrs. Potter's Lullaby performances, which they don't vary that much. I did find one in particular, the one that's on the one, it's funny, I have it here, the one-on-one, which at Pier 97, it was posted 2 years ago, but it looks like it was from August 2015.
Yes.
And I think that is one of their best performances. And Adam goes to every, he always does the Dan, like, oh, Dan, the clang of the electric guitar. But he also goes to Bryson at that one and Emmy, and he makes them kind of do little solos and stuff. It's a cool version. But yeah, and by the way, I gave someone a Pioneer, my friend that loves Desert Life, I bought her a Pioneer Town Bar t-shirt.
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, she gushed. But you're right, Mrs. Potter is because of that David Lowery episode has been on my mind, and the Desert Life recap. Sorry,
yeah. So then we get to the section. This is the same for both of us, Jeff. Mr. Jones, Colorblind, Butterfly in Reverse, Omaha. I'm with you, I'm fine with them playing Mr. Jones. It gets the crowd going. It's interesting to me that they've stuck with that so rigorously. Mr. Jones, Colorblind, Butterfly. Sometimes they've cut Butterfly in Reverse this summer, and then Omaha. They very rigorously stuck to that for a while. They must just think it really works. I'm always curious about the psychology of that, but they must just be like something about like Mr. Jones. We follow it with another hit that is slower and maybe lets Adam take a breath for a second, and then we kind of pump it back up with Omaha. It just must be like that. They're like, yeah, we need that right there. I don't know why else. They must have thought about this. To have done it this way in this many times in a row, which is now basically like 3 years now since 2021.
Yeah. Well, something Adam said in Des Moines on stage introducing Butterfly in Reverse was that they were touring with Santana this summer, and they didn't have a chance to play as many songs as they would normally play every night.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was a song that they didn't get to play as frequently this summer, but he said that it's one of his favorite songs, and he loves it so much. And so he was excited, kind of to get to sing it there in Des Moines. So, I agree. It was interesting, kind of an interesting insertion into the set list. And obviously then you've got Omaha, which always just gets the crowd. Charlie comes out, and as you said, Charlie's finger was notably, in a little cast or whatever it is. And so one of the things he was talking about at the sound check was playing bass with one finger, because I guess he plays bass on Holiday in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if
that's the one. Yeah,
typically does. So he was like, I want to see if I can play bass with, one finger bass or whatever, because he was trying to make it work with that. So Charlie comes
that's
out
why they did a Holiday in Spain. Charlie was just like, let me take the hardest part and see if I can actually play this physically.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things that I think that was what he wanted to check there. They were checking to see if one of the things, if he could pull it off, and he was able to.
If Charlie could physically play Holiday in Spain.
Yeah, right. So he comes out and does his Omaha thing with, of course, everybody always that always get. I feel like Omaha never fails to just get the biggest reaction. Maybe it's something about the Midwest. The Midwest loves Omaha. the Midwest. That is like the Midwest anthem. Every state from Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri. This is the anthem for every one of them. I think that song is particularly beloved in the Heartland. Everybody loves it. Always gets a huge reaction.
Yeah, it doesn't get a bad reaction in New York either, to be clear. But I would imagine it does get an extra big reaction. You can actually listening to that show, you can really hear the crowd. Like sometimes it depends upon how the mic in the crowd, but you can really hear the crowd singing Omaha. It's loud.
Right. Well, I've seen them do it in Omaha twice now. And nowhere does it get a bigger response than in Omaha. They opened with it last year, which of course was just perfect. And you never let the audience down with that one.
The next song on my set list was Anna Begins, which we already talked about. I really just hope Eric gets it. Now, if the two of us got it, I mean, we got to get it for Eric here.
Yeah, and I did see it a couple times when it was in Europe a couple of years ago. But and I just appreciate Jeff's point about what would you call it, the ultimate fan favorite? Because I was re-listening because I uploaded some of these episodes on YouTube. Some have videos, some don't. But I was I uploaded the one with the fan Zubia and her daughters, who I wouldn't describe as hardcore fans. They just really like Counting Crows and are in it because their parents. And both of them listed Anna Begins as like a top 3 song, even though it wasn't a single and they weren't of the Crows generation. They got into them because of Accidentally in Love and stuff like that, and they still love Anna Begins. So you're right about that, Jeff.
Yeah. I was going to say that, Anna Begins, I remember when I heard that song, I knew right then that I was going to be a fan for life. I was like, wherever this band goes, I will follow. Because to me, that song, like, it's still to this day one of the greatest songs that's ever been written. And I was like, I knew right then I'm going to be a fan of this band. As long as they're putting out music, I'll be listening.
Yeah, here you are.
Still true.
Miami next for both of us at that point. I actually, I really was feeling Miami this time. It's been, and again, not that I've ever disliked the song, but it was really kind of hitting me, that sort of feeling of like the things you lose and you keep and let go, and the shifts you go through in life, and that kind of theme was really working for me as I was hearing that song this summer. So I was really appreciating that.
Yeah, they were supposed to play High Life right there before Miami. It was on the set list. Something, I don't know, went wrong. And just immediately, without even like, oh, let's see, some technical difficulty. And just immediately, I think it was Ian and Adam said, well, we were going to play one song and instead we're going to play something else. And then right into Miami. Now, Miami to me is I don't know, it might be top 10. It's one of my very favorite songs. So, I was extremely excited to hear that, and I think he always just does a great version of that. That's one of the songs. I mean, I've talked about this before, and Adam's talked about this. He's lost some of his upper register, but everything that's still there is so good. It's like he may not be able to hit the highest of the highs, but all the everything that he's doing is still as good as it ever was, really, and sounds amazing. So. I was very excited to hear Miami, and again that they were hitting a lot of my very favorite songs. From Anna Begins, Mrs. Potter's, Miami. I couldn't have been happier.
Yeah, no, that's part of it. I think like these are they're playing a lot of songs that I like, so there's a little bit of like, yeah, right. You could vary this like a little bit more, but at the same time, I'm not complaining about any of the tunes that you're. So what are you gonna? Yeah, like. And then you got, so at that point they moved on in mine, they moved into the acoustic set. So we'll hold back a second. You got, okay. And this was a song that was cut from the New York show. It was supposed to open the encore, and it's crushingly.
Oh, right. Like,
yeah. Across. It was Catapult.
Yes.
Which was, man, and they sound great on that song this summer.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
can't
always,
go wrong.
It's always been one of my favorite. They actually play quite a lot when I've seen them, and I love that song, and it's always great to see live.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think especially with maybe the other songs they've been picking this summer, the dynamic of Catapult against some of that stuff, I think has been really, I don't know, that song's really been sticking out to me when it like pops up in the set list. They've played it a few times, and so the next up are our acoustic sets. I had Washington Square, Angels of the Silences, and Friend of the Devil. Washington Square played, of course, because they were in New York. And to steal from Adam, it's a song about leaving home. It's a song about coming home, and it's a song about my home. And it's called Washington Square. And now I did live. 1 year I lived. I lived for a year about 5 blocks from Washington Square, so I can also claim that it was my home ever so briefly. And it's always nice to hear that song in New York, and people always get excited. And Jeff had Blues Run the Game, Angels of the Silences, and Friend of the Devil. I really liked Angels of the Silences. It'd been a long time. They played it a lot last summer, but they started playing it after I saw them. So it was really nice to hear them play that. And I thought that crushed. I was like noticing details in that. I thought that was really, really beautiful the way they've been playing that song.
Yeah, something Adam said at the show was that over the years they have reconfigured a lot of their songs and reinterpreted them and reconfigured them. And he said something like that's something that we really like to do. He said this was the first song that we ever really did that with, and Angels of the Silences. So that was cool. The fans obviously loved it. And Blues Run the Game. That's all. It's always it's fun to hear them mix it up and at these shows they're getting to do like, oh, let's do some songs that we want to do just for us, and I think that's one of those songs where Adam and Emmy do Blues Run the Game, and I feel like it always just is a great moment in the show. So
yeah. I think that's added interesting energy to those longer shows, is that playing 70 minutes every night, when they get to stretch out, there is a sort of like, oh, I kind of want to, it's a different vibe than when they're playing, an hour 45 or 2 hours a night. It's just, I think it changes the dynamics.
Definitely. Yeah. I think the show I saw was an hour and 40 minutes. So that's, you're getting 30 more minutes of material there. And as you say, they are mixing it up and inserting them in different places. Washington Square, that's definitely one of my favorite songs. So that's a nice get there for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that in New York. I always think yeah, that would be just like maybe not as good as seeing Omaha, and I know it's not a song to get like pumped up about, but I'm hoping the crowd appreciated it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Adam was really feeling the
Miami
New York energy that night. Oh, Miami.
Oh,
yeah, we got it. We'll all fly to Miami and see them next time. Next time they play Miami.
Didn't we actually say that maybe Miami gets a better reception in New Orleans, right? Didn't we hear the one show or something? In the crowd
that's true. Nuts? That
does. That's where I've seen them do it there for sure 3 times. Yeah, it's the ultimate New Orleans song is Miami, as it turns out.
That is true. Yeah, Adam was definitely feeling in the New York show. If you just go back and listen to it, there's a lot of banter about just sort of being excited to be home, playing in New York. I get the sense he likes that Central Park venue. They had I noticed a lot of musicians on the side stage, a ton. So there was just, I think they had a lot of their friends there. It was kind of a big party for everyone. They were having a very good time. Just in that. I noticed, I never really thought about this in Angels. Not that it's a new thing, but just in that last verse, when everyone goes from singing on the background, like the transition out of that, it makes that end of it pop so much that I don't know, which is an interesting little detail I'd never really like sort of sat and listened to, and it really kind of just struck me.
Yeah, Chris, you're almost like copying, like not copying, but you're almost repeating like what I thought last year. Like there's a way, because I really want to hear Angels of the Silence, the hard version live. I don't know if they'll ever do the hard version again. I'm not sure, but that was like my dream. And then I knew, I always liked Angels from the from the Across the Wire, and then I knew that they were playing it on that tour. But I think if you go back to my review of the LA shows, just like you, that was the one that stood out the most. And like you said, the harmony and the pop, I just couldn't believe how good it was. Yeah, it blew me. It blew me away.
I was crying for reasons that were unclear to me. I was like, I'm not exactly sure what this is doing to me, but this is really hitting me. The next thing in both of our shows was Round Here.
Yep.
And I gotta say, guys, I've listened to a lot of versions around here. You know this.
Yes.
This is one of my all-time favorite versions around here. And I will admit some bias here. I've had, without getting too deep into it, I've had a long year with some family stuff and really kind of heavy things. And so like he steps up for Round Here. And when you obviously that song's always great. It's always a kind of an emotional thing. He delivers it really, really well. The middle, which if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to any of the versions from the summer, I highly recommend going to grab YouTube and search for summertime alts or summer alts, or just look for the Central Park version. I still think is one of the best ones. There's a couple other really, really good versions. Even like Jeff's one is great too.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the emotion that they delivered in that, where Adam is going into if you haven't heard, Adam goes into this new thing. Some summers I remember, some summers I forget. Every summer fades into September. Maybe this will be the best one. I keep waiting for the next one. I keep waiting for the best one. It's a very about like I think about. I mean, the guy just turned 60 this summer. About and we're all. I mean, none of us are 25 guys. So we're all like, what comes left? One of the lines that he drops in there later is every summer fades into September. Every lifetime fades into September, and that is fucking heavy shit, right? Just dropping on. I keep waiting for the change. I keep waiting for the world, for the sun to the sun to shine on me. It's like incredibly beautiful. I feel like I can't properly do justice to how fucking good this was. In particular, though, when they came back, two things about how they came out of it, because the middle part has been kind of similar in a bunch of parts. First, he was going to this thing where as he's coming back, he's like, there's a girl in a car in a parking lot. There's a girl. He's like, there's a girl. There's always a girl.
Always a girl.
And he doesn't go into and just watching. I know you guys always love watch. I love watching Jim too. Jim is watching with deep intent of trying to figure out, because Adam's faking him out, right? He's like, he's like that, because that's where he's bringing it back with the drums, and he's like, there's always a girl, and Jim's like, okay, I gotta wait. He like resets, but like watching, and so that was just super fun to watch. But then the outro of that, like Adam is standing on the speakers, he's screaming, I keep waiting for the change, and I'm like, this is what I fucking pay for. This is why I've seen 60 Counting Crows shows. This is like these moments where he's just like not fully ad-libbing, because he'd come up with some of these words before, but like pulling this stuff and creating this crescendo from like deep quiet. I mean, that moment right before they come back is so quiet into this giant crescendo at the end. I'm like, this is what I paid for. And I trust that no one, because I trust Counting Crows fans, I trust that no one was judging me for crying. So, I don't think anyone, at least no one I noticed. As I looked, it came out and looked around, no one was jeering me. So I think it was
no
okay.
White wig, no gavel.
No gavel. No, I can't highly enough recommend that version. There's one in Portland, Maine that's incredible too. It is so good. I loved the version in Iowa too. I mean, it was really,
Also really
again,
good.
maybe biased. I really think I apologize for this extended monologue, Jeff. What do you think?
I second everything you said. I mean, yeah, again, this is, one of their greatest songs. And then here's Adam, bringing new meaning to it, finding new meaning to it, saying, things in a different way, and reinterpreting it in ways that still connect. And I do think that, I've had those, I kind of had the same thing where before I went to the show, I said, I like need a Counting Crow show this year.
Yeah.
There's something like I really felt like, I just need to be there listening to, Adam sing around here like he did in Des Moines. I need that, that healing or whatever that is that I'm yearning for. I felt like I needed it and got it. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And, to me, it's just his ability to find, sort of new meaning and new purpose in these songs, I think is one of the great things about the band. I mean, people do complain sometimes about hearing some of the same songs, but are you hearing the same song?
You're not. If they're doing
we didn't
it right,
hear the
not.
same song in Des Moines, that you heard in New York, that they heard in Portland. So it's almost like a jazz musician. It's a different interpretation of the same song every night. It's not the same song. Now, that doesn't mean that they're the Grateful Dead, where every night is a new thing. And they're, of course, the super fans would love to hear them just pull out every single thing in their catalog. But I think Adam's ability to find new meaning and purpose in even his most popular songs is one of the things that makes them worth still going to see after all these years.
Yeah,
So
that's I was thinking about that. I'm like, if I had to pick, which you shouldn't have to. They could also play like Amy Hit the Atmosphere or something and Round Here. It's fine. But if I had to pick for them, like busting out some of the deeper cuts and like doing a really big Round Here that really is fresh and different, and not an alt every that they've played a few summers in a row.
yeah,
I'm gonna pick the Round Here every time because that to me is where they connect and find all of these things. And I also thought, look, every there's some alts that really connect, and there's some alts that really connect, and some that I forget. But to paraphrase there, but that one I really the way that connected to that song generally really felt like this is a real interesting and deep interpretation of what this song means and about the kind of life's journey. I mean, it really is like this sort of apex of sort of a life's journey song, which that song always was, but to
yeah.
hear him sing this song like 30 years after and to find, still
Mm-hmm.
finding new stuff in it, it's amazing. They're very good at this. Someone should start a podcast about them.
Yeah, right. And also, and again,
And write a
part
book.
of it,
And someone should write a book too.
somebody should write a book. Part of it is the performance too. I mean, again, I was up so close, and you really got to see the full Adam Duritz experience, up close, or maybe not from that central vantage point. I know what you're talking about, Chris, but still, just getting to see the performance all the way up close, and all the little things that he's doing with his hands and his fingers, and he's a true performer, and that's always been one of the things that sets him apart. And like I said, I was excited to see them get in front of that Santana audience this summer, mainly because of that. It's like, you all know these songs, but you've never seen them. If you've never seen a Counting Crows performance, then you don't know what you're missing, because it's not just it's not like the Wallflowers where the music's great, it's amazing, but they're just standing up there playing it. This is a true performance, and to me, that is one of the things that absolutely sets them apart from so many of those peers that they have, either played with or been paired with over the years. That this is not just a bunch of guys playing music. This is a performance, and from start to finish, it has an arc. It has a narrative to it. Not every artist or band or musician makes that a part of what they do. But I think it's very central to the Counting Crows experience, and maybe people don't know that about them. Maybe they do. I don't know.
I guess, sorry, Chris, if I'm going to mention something that you were going to mention anyway, but just because you mentioned about Adam's 60th birthday, which is obviously a huge milestone. And by the way, I remember 10 years ago when he was he was one of the people featured on the cover of ARP, right? Doesn't ARP always?
Yeah, when he turned 50.
Yeah, I think they recruit celebrities to show on their cover when they're 50.
Be willing to turn 50.
Be willing to turn 50. Did they? The set list says, Jeff? Did they sing "Happy Birthday" to him or something, or who sang to him?
Yeah. So first of all, I should have mentioned more of this stuff, because as soon as Adam, sort of came out, and he said at the sound check, he says, "Hey, what's up?" To us in the front row, and all of us say "Happy Birthday" because it's the day after his birthday. And he kind of rolled his eyes and was just like, "Yeah, thanks." He was kind of like that, like, "Yeah, thanks a lot." And I think he said something like, well, okay, so then on stage, I don't think anything was planned. Suddenly it was not somebody in the band, somebody from backstage comes out with a cake with candles in it lit, and they come out and they're like, say something like, "Oh, let's all sing happy birthday to Adam." Maybe somebody says that into the mic. But Adam says, like, waves it away and says, my birthday was yesterday. My birthday was yesterday. And literally, like, shoos them away. But the audience isn't having it and still sings happy birthday to Adam. And again, he kind of rolls his eyes and is like, thanks. He wasn't like miserable about it, but he just sort of seemed like, as many of us are like, yeah, I don't know if this is a mile that we celebrate these milestones as much as we endure them.
Well, there was something on stage, right? Like, I thought I could stop this by being in a rock band, but it turns out you keep I saw my friends getting older. Turns out I got older too.
Yeah.
Kind
I joked about that too. I once said like I had children later because I'll live longer then, right? Which of course is not true. Probably I'll live fewer years. But that's cool that the
Yeah,
audience got into it and did that. You know, it just reminded me, and just a mild interjecting segue. I haven't official. I do want the Sullivan Street podcast to, because I like on Reddit and I'm guessing on Facebook every year on August 1st, somebody says, "Oh, let's send happy birthday to Adam," and people do remember that August is his birthday. But I
sure.
I want the Counting Crows fans to, you know, and with our impetus, August 1st is Counting Crows Day. It's not just Adam's birthday. Let's
of.
declare it. You know, like that May the
Official
4th is
Counting Crows
Star
Day.
Wars
Yeah.
Day,
Well, it also
because
works, right? Because August is August
it,
and everything after, right? So the first day
exactly.
of August begins,
Yes.
right?
Exactly. So it has to be Counting
Right.
Crows Day, and I want from now until eternity fans to reference it as such. I saw on, I think it was
You
Jim's
start.
Facebook recently, had to do with this, that somebody randomly wrote, and he responded to this, said like, "Oh, since it's his birthday in August, maybe you guys will play August and everything after live sometimes." And he's like, basically, no chance. That's not gonna happen. And it was like almost like we loved recording it. It was a big deal when we did it with the orchestra. Yeah, that's, for at least for now, that probably won't be resurfacing anytime soon.
Yeah, admittedly, the version they did was with a symphony. So unless they play another show with a symphony, like the one from like 20 years ago at Disney Hall, yeah, I don't think there's a great likelihood of them working up an arrangement to that one that's not with a symphony.
It was the original one just him on the piano. Now I'm
Yeah,
forgetting.
it's just him.
Okay.
It's just the two versions that exist or that we've heard, right, are him at piano, which he did a couple of times in 2003, three times maybe, um, and then the symphony version. There was the one live symphony version, then
Okay.
what they released a few years ago. So that's it.
Okay.
There's no like straight band version of that
Yeah,
song.
he
You know?
yeah, there's no way, and yeah, with his other
And
with his other
so the
piano songs and
question
everything.
to the two biggest Counting Crows fans I know is which
Hmm.
is the best version of that song? Since there are so few, you must have a favorite.
And obviously I don't mind giving my opinion. Of course, we'll talk about this song also in depth when we talk about B-sides and other things. But Chris,
Oh
I'll let you
yeah,
go first.
I like that piano version a lot, and it's maybe just because
me
that's the
too.
first one I heard. I really like the piano, him at the piano. It's like cool with the strings, but it's a lot, right? It's so stringy, for lack of a more technical term, that I go towards, if I'm picking one, I go to that piano version. It just, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's me. That's my
and me
taste.
too. Me too. The only reason, not the only reason, I like the orchestra version just because it's cool. The only thing I get the feels about, or where I get the most feels about the orchestra version, is I did like, and at the time, by the way, I was actually wondering if there was rumors that the band was never going to record new music at that point when they released that, and it was like, I love the going back, right? That the first album was August and everything after, and then they're finally releasing the song of it all these years later, and they got an orchestra to do it, and Amazon published it. I just thought that was a neat. I like the story of it as well. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so I didn't want to. Yeah. So where were
Yeah.
you, Chris, on your
Well, we're
set list
here. So
rundown? Or
in New York, we have High Life, which I'm sorry we both got to hear it. I just got to hear it in the show,
All right.
and it was darn fine. Next up, we each got Richard Manuel and then Rain King. I believe both with O. Did you get? Was there an alt in yours, Jeff, or no? Or was I thinking of the Minnesota version with O. Susanna?
Yeah, I don't think we got an alt in ours
Yeah, I think
that
we
I
did a straight
recall,
version.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
In New York, they did "Oh Susanna," which again, this is like points for doing it all. I'm not the biggest fan of that one; just has never really hit me too much. But people sang along, people liked it, so I more power to them, and I'm glad they're doing something. Now, I'll never not want to hear "Rain." I mean, that's one song that like legitimately penciled that in every set list forever for me, and I'm good. Even
yeah,
other bands, I think we should just make that a national song, and every band should play it.
right. Yeah, and again, it's like it's one of their all time classics. The fans would just completely love it, sing along, and yeah, I did. I see younger fans who like they didn't go see Counting Crows back in the '90s. They weren't around for those shows, and so they're seeing these songs maybe for the first time or the fourth time or something. But to them, it's still fresh, and again, the band was did great Adam had a particularly good show. He was just in a good mood. I could see his nephew up in the balcony watching from the side with his friends, and they were just, it looked like having the time of their lives up there, rocking out and enjoying it. And, Adam was in a really good mood and was also in a really good voice. And so it was a good show for him, I thought, for sure.
Yeah, no, and that's, I mean, well, we now hit the point of like these are a couple of the same. It's the one along December, hanging around, and Holiday in Spain. Both of us, I think,
Yep.
had an extra song in the encore that was supposed to be there and got cut. And they just went to hanging around and Holiday in Spain, I guess, for time. But yeah, I thought they were in everyone afterwards. I hung around and talked to people afterwards, and pretty much because I was, in part because I was curious. I'm like, man, I was really feeling that show, but maybe I was just in a headspace. I've been to shows sometimes where you're like, that was for me, and I don't know if it was the best show in the objective sense. But a lot of people really felt like, who've seen a lot of shows, were really like, that was a great show. They're really in fine form,
Right.
and they were crushing things. It was also really cool. I didn't get to see the one last summer, and I really like that. I don't know. Was last summer were Dan and Charlie kind of assisting on that song too?
Charlie was. I
Okay.
think it was
When I
just
saw
Adam and Charlie.
I saw the first full version of it, and Charlie was playing on it.
Okay. This time, Dan also added a little bit of backing vocals and like the tiniest bit of guitar in one spot. It was like, blink and you'll miss it, but he did add a very little bit there, which is interesting that was new. But I do, again, I'm always a fan of like, especially when you add Charlie, it's like Adam at piano and Charlie on the accordion. That's like, again, talk about like the piano August and everything after, or Raining in Baltimore. That's like one of my favorite like versions of the band, is just those two kind of playing their keys together.
Oh, I've been saying, and maybe I'm missing it. Like, I want to see Charlie on like a new. I want them to release a new song with Charlie on accordion somewhere, and
Mm.
maybe he's done it in some of the songs. I just at the time can't think of it, but from the last couple albums. But yeah, let's get him back on accordion for yeah, show off those skills that he can play. 74 instruments, him and Emmy or whatever. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were supposed to get, I think it was Blues Run the Game was supposed to be the song that came before Hanging Around Holiday in Spain.
Interesting.
And then they scratched that out, ended up putting that into the acoustic part where they replaced, they scratched out God of Ocean Tides, but I don't know if Blues Run the Game was a replacement or not. And then Catapult was put in there, but then that was moved to earlier in the set list. So things got like moved around in real time on ours. But yeah, the same thing. There were so many people that were I heard even just talking about, oh, this is a Taylor Swift song. Like I could hear that conversation taking place in the audience as he's playing the one. This is Taylor Swift. Do you know who this is? This is Taylor Swift. So people were like having that kind of moment and really enjoying it. I also think Long December. Again, one of their all-time classic songs. If you look at these set lists that they're bringing again to those Santana fans this summer, it's like classic after classic after classic. I bet a lot of people who were at that show went, I didn't know they did this. They did this. This is their song. That's them. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And became new fans. So, once again, when they start bringing out the heavy hitters, it's just one after the next, whether it's, something like Long December, Hanging Around, Holiday in Spain, Rain King, Omaha, Mr. Jones. I mean, Anna Begins, on and on. These are still to this day huge songs that I feel like a lot of people know. And
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people
good.
have derisively called it like a greatest hit set, and I'm like, no, it's a kind of a they're playing classics. It's a classic set. It's not. They're not necessarily playing. Yes, they're playing Mr. Jones, obviously, but they're not necessarily playing Accidentally in Love. They've played Big Yellow Taxi a few times, but it's more like, yeah, like Rain King wasn't a single, but Rain King's a you got to bring that song if people are going to hear you for the first time. So
right,
even that to me, Omaha, right, is not a single. It's part of the classic. Here's what Counting Crows is, kind of thing, and they're kind of distilling that.
Right.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll ask this though. I love the one. Where does it rank? Where does it rank for you guys among like Adam piano songs? Because it has struck me that he does these piano songs before Long December, and they're so stylistic that you could almost compare them very cleanly because they all sound not the same, but there's a style to all of them that kind of flows through. Do do you guys is the one your favorite, or is there one that really sticks out for you guys?
Jeff, we'll start with you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's awesome. Uh, Others have said the same thing. When the first time you heard Adam do something like the one, again, it's just a reminder of his ability to take almost anybody's song and reinterpret it in a way that makes it wholly his own. And so you hear that song and go, wow, this sounds like it could be a Counting Crows song. The lyrics, his delivery of it, every part of it, and yet it's somebody else's song. And he's done that over and over and over again, in my opinion, not just with this one. I think this is just a brilliant example of something that he does really well. I don't know about where I would rank it, but the first time I heard it, I was just blown away, but also it was just another reminder of sort of his ability to like really make somebody's song his own. So I'm a huge fan, but I want to say also to my fellow Counting Crows hardcore fans that I do feel it when they're saying, man, I want, I always want to hear them mix it up. I want to hear him do something different. To me, it's like this thing was incredible that he did, but also I felt like it was special. And so the more you do it, the less special it becomes in some ways.
Right.
And I think that those super fans, that sense of like, wanting them to mix it up more. I think it comes from a good place. You know what I mean? It's like, we'd love to hear them, do some of their other material that we don't hear them do so often. So I think this goes in the same thing. Like it was so special to hear it, but when he does it every single night over and over and over again, it takes away some of that. At the same time, and then I'll stop talking. It's I think that the fans who are coming to see it in some ways want to hear him do it, because they haven't seen him do it. So
and it's still relatively,
moment,
it's relatively new. It's been a year. Yeah, no, I know. Being super fans are annoying. I guess I feel that way about Butterfly in Reverse. Like I loved hearing that a couple times. Like him bringing that, now he'll play it every show, and I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe you can bring some other song B-side out. I'm kind of I agree with you about the one, how it is special, and Adam made it his own, and I love it as a Long December intro. I will, if I don't know what other songs I'd put there. The one that I guess for now I would tie with that, because it's one of my favorites, and he's played it just piano and with the band, but there was a time when he would do Goodnight LA and I love Goodnight LA when it was just him on the piano, and then he went into Long December.
Explodes.
Yeah, Well, why does your head explode?
Because it's like, yes, we want to hear you do that, Adam. Please do Goodnight LA tonight. We just
and when he did it just piano into Long December, that was great.
We want to hear Good Time. We want to hear. Come on, man.
I will say the one I'm just very fond. My favorite of those covers is "Live Forever," the Oasis song. I love that song so much, and he sings it so well, and it's so like he gets all the pathos, and the sort of the way that like Ryan Adams wrings the pathos out of Wonderwall, he wrings all the pathos out of "Live Forever," and I always love that.
Yeah, she doesn't exist anymore. Also, another very high on my list, but I've seen him do Live Forever. I love it. I have to say though, as much as Long December, you think, well, everybody knows that song. I posted that video of the one, and somebody wrote a comment or messaged me or something and said, hey, what's the song that they do after the Taylor Swift song? What song are they going into? And so I posted back, oh, it's Long December. It's one of their best songs. Posted the, link to it or whatever. So it's like, here are fans who are hearing Long December and Counting Crows, their most classic songs. You would think everybody knows this. They don't know it, and so a whole new generation.
I'm envious a little bit. Yeah, someone's still out there listening to Long December for the first time.
Yeah. How cool is that? How awesome is that?
But yeah, I don't know. It was, but again, I think we both got great shows. I'm really excited to hear, Eric, about your experience with this last stretch of the tour. What your show was like.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll either mention it by itself or as part of some other show that we do. But and mine, Toad the Wet Sprocket's opening, which actually was weird. I mentioned before I was a huge Toad the Wet Sprocket fan. It was on my bucket list to see them, but I did actually get to see them in Wisconsin a couple of years ago, and they were maybe it was 10 years ago now, but they were fantastic. The only thing bad is that which is weird for Toad the Wet Sprocket, even though they have some electric songs, is that it was so loud, like.
Mm.
It's almost like how like when it's like might have been like the loudest concert I ever went to, Toad the Wet Sprocket, and I almost like said a snarky comment to like the guy behind the board at the end, and he's like, I mean, I could try to say it nicely, but like I know what volume to do it at, that guy, and I'm like, no, you didn't. It was bad,
Yeah.
but the band itself was really good. I mean, I don't know what your
You
feelings are,
probably
Toad.
won't
We
have
can
that
talk.
problem with them opening a show. Like the Crows will probably keep, because the openers they also tend to
Yeah,
keep lower. So
and
maybe
it's
this is the perfect
outdoors.
way to see Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's outdoors. The other one was indoors, which I think was part of the acoustics. But the song that I'm putting on my but the only song on that list that I'm kind of dying to hear would be High Life. I haven't heard that in so long, and I know they've only played it once officially, but one of them was in the headlining show, so I'm hoping for High Life. And randomly, I guess I maybe want to hear them play one of the songs from Somewhere Under Wonderland, because that has largely been neglected recently from their
Yeah.
tours.
Hmm.
With except for they'll throw Palisades Park or God's Votes and Tides sometimes, so maybe we'll hit that. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I have the only High Life of the summer in the actual shows.
yeah.
Interesting.
I
Well,
think
I hope you get it, Eric. Eric.
yeah, hopefully that'll sneak in. I did want to say for those trivia buffs out there that that he said whenever it started, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, when he said, "Oh, starting at that point, I play Long December every time," right?
Hmm.
So this year, though, because of the Thunder and Lightning show, that Long December is not the number one song on the tour. That the other four songs that they cut was
Oh, that's a good point.
played more than Long
Interesting.
December.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
That is
anyway,
A
that
interesting
l-
because they did not get to they did not get to play Long December, which means that
that's right.
one of
A
the rare
December
shows that
shows.
it did not get played. Very, very rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
wild.
yeah. So anyway, that's so I did any other concluding thoughts from the summer 2024 roundup
Seems like it's
review, Jeff?
a good
Yeah.
summer for them. Go if you haven't seen them, go see them, and
Yeah.
if you missed them, go see them next year. They're hopefully
Yeah.
going to come around once again, and I hope they play
Yeah.
come around when they do.
Oh, they should. But I was saying, and if you've missed it and you're not going to see them, go buy or get Nugs for a month or buy one show and pick one of the
Definitely.
headlining shows. Definitely pick one of the headlining shows. Would be my recommendation there. But yeah, they're great. You should hear them.
Yeah,
Jeff,
there's
do
a
you
bunch of videos too.
Jeff, because you're not as media savvy as you thought, earlier in the podcast, you said that, oh, go check out the High Life sound check on my YouTube channel, but you did not give your YouTube channel. But so can
Ooh,
I give it?
do
I
I?
know what it is.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
It's
Feel free.
GH Archives on YouTube.
Right.
So Jeff Harkness Archives, and yes, there it is in the video, the sound check. I did not realize, Jeff, or maybe I did and I forgot that I guess you were either one of the first or maybe the first to have posted the one. And it has, because you were the one that put the one, that video has 53,000 views from last year in Vegas when they debuted the song.
Yes, I did post the first video of it. That's your first mover advantage. Although I don't care about clicks or any of that stuff anyway. But
Monetize it, Jeff. Make
yeah,
that
right,
35 cents.
exactly, right. Somebody told me like, oh, put an advertisement for your book on the video, and I'm like, come on, this is like so cheesy. So I didn't try to take advantage of it, but I did. I was very excited to get it online because I knew what it was and I knew that it didn't exist. And I was so excited to upload it. And I was like dying to just get home and upload it so that other people could see it. Cause I'm like, oh my God, it's incredible. I can't believe it. It was a fun moment. I texted both of you guys from the venue. He just played a Taylor Swift song.
Yeah, but I didn't realize that you were the one that uploaded. Either I just didn't pay attention or remember. Somehow I have to buy you out, or we have to buy you out, and so we get then the rights, and we could have posted that on the Sullivan Street podcast
That's what
channel.
It'll be a complicated business deal that we do.
Exactly.
Then Jeff will finally be able to deduct these things.
That's right.
That is the one thing you always have to.
Right.
Just remember, be careful with your friends. We were texting with Jeff, and we realized I was something about the set list, and you said, I was like, wait a minute. Oh, I was going to text you again and realize the show was still going on, and I'm like, oh shit, he's like mid round here right now. I can't. I kept having responses. Like, I can't respond. I can't break this man's concentration while he is being. Just be a good friend when your friends are at concerts, and let them. They might take a little time to respond and give them some space.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I didn't realize that.
To all our friends.
Yeah, no, that was more than fine. But yeah, check it out. I did post stuff from all of those sound checks and shows that I've been to in the last couple of years. So enjoy them. They're free, commercial free.
All right.
Thank you so much.
No sponsors.
So, thank you everybody for listening to Sullivan Street. As I said, we have the guest next week, Dan Eisenberg, right? Will be joining the Sullivan Street podcast. All sorts of good stuff happening in 2024. So keep listening, and thanks so much for joining us here on Sullivan Street. Goodbye.
Sure.